Hello. Today I'm going to talk about this awesome zombie arm prop that my friend Scott built for the maze. As you can see, it's sticking out through this hole in the wall, and it seems to be randomly moving around. He found plans for this online, which I will link below, and I want him to talk about his experience building this, but I thought you'd like to see what it looks like in place. So, just a single motor prop, a couple magnets, and a little bit of creativity. So here we go to Scott's house to talk about it. Okay, so here we are with Scott, who built this zombie arm. What website did you find the plans on?
So this was actually through DIY Halloween and How To. This was a video I think he put out probably about 2 years ago.
Okay.
It was just a nifty looking assembly of projects he has that I wanted to try building one.
This thing is freaking awesome. And like I said before, I'll include the link down below to the video on which Scott followed. So, what was your favorite part about building this?
Actually, probably the fact that I was able to build something without you knowing about it.
That is hilarious. That's so awesome.
It was something that I made and brought down the weekend before Halloween and more or less said, hey, got this. We need to find a place to put it out.
I was blown away. You have multiple movements from a single motor, which is one of the goals as prop builders we try to get, is how much movement can you get out of a single motor. What was the hardest part about building this?
Finding the perfect position for this motor right here in the middle. It had to be screwed in, unscrewed, moved around multiple times. It was not just something that you could kind of put in one place because of the magnets. They would keep attaching to each other if they were too close. If it was too far away, it'd keep bumping it all. So it took some finessing.
Okay, I have seen that occasionally the magnets will almost grab, but it seems to free itself out. And in those cases, just like now, the arm moves the most wild, which really makes this thing kind of alive because it's not just the same mechanic motion. You have a zombie arm on the front. What other kind of things can you put at the end?
I've seen people use ghoul hands. I think it's primarily just to have that hand look like it's reaching out from somewhere. You could put it under, like a bed, behind a hole in the wall, like we kind of did, coming out of a television. If you want to look like
that would be cool.
In, like Carolyn.
Yeah, like Poltergeist have. Oh, you would have to do the arms in black and white.
Yeah.
And maybe have like a strobe effect. Oh, that would be good. I think I want to do that. Although I like under the bed, have a pair of these reaching out from under a bed. That's pretty cool. Sorry, I wrote some stuff down. How clumsy am I, right? Did you deviate from the video at all when you built this?
For the most part, I followed everything that was listed. I think the only thing that really kind of was problematic with it was the way I did these cords. When I was first trying to put some of the weights on, this tube was a little bit longer, so it would keep catching on that. I think that if I had just kind of maybe bored the channel back and maybe buried the wires down into it, that might have been something that would have made it a little bit easier to get everything in a line.
Well, you answered my next question. I was going to ask if you could do something different, what would you do? So I guess it's the way you handled the wires. I mean, watching this thing work, it seems pretty rock solid, reliable. One of the reasons I wanted him to talk about his experience building this is when I see DIY props online, usually it's the nice finished product. You don't get to see all the trials and errors it took to get there. Uh, and sometimes I wonder, okay, if I go through the effort, is it going to look like what I see filmed? Are they saving just the best parts and edit that together? So that's why we have this running continuously here, and to talk to somebody who didn't invent it but actually followed somebody else's instructions. And I think this is a good example of how good those instructions were.
Yeah.
I'm curious where you got some of these parts from.
Well, the only part that did not come from the Home Depot was just the zombie arm. Everything else was found through various aisles. I actually made a list out of where everything was so I wouldn't miss anything while I was there. Oh, and the fishing weights. I had to get those from Walmart. But the wood, the motor came from Amazon. I won't lie about that. I did order that through Amazon instead of through one of the normal Hunt Forum reindeer motors.
I was noticing this was not a standard reindeer motor, but seems to be pretty rock solid, a nice slow rotation. And a couple times the magnets have caught each other, but the motor didn't seem to care and pulled free. Do you remember how much that motor was?
The motor, I believe, was somewhere in the range of $10 or less,
Oh,
so
that's
it wasn't
nice.
too expensive. I
'Cause
mean,
of,
it's not a high-powered one. It's just made to pretty much rotate something around like it's doing.
well, this ran for several hours Halloween night when we had it in the wall, and nobody had to touch it. It never came off track, never locked up that I saw. It was still running after the last trick or treater left. The uh, Can you describe how it's built just briefly? Again, we're going to link to, is it DIY Halloween
Halloween how to.
and
Yeah.
how to, uh, for some really excellent step-by-step instructions. But just a brief overview. What's going on here?
So the arm itself is rotating on an axle nut that's underneath here. And it's rotating on top of this pointed awl. These magnets are attached to a standard motor that rotates at about 5 to 6 revolutions per minute based off of how much voltage it has running through it. And these are just your typical pipe insulations that kind of act as bumpers. So whenever the arm swings over to it, it kind of just pushes it back the other direction. But these fishing weights on the back kind of help keep everything balanced so that it acts as a fulcrum from the axle nut. So you just kind of slide that onto the nut, hide the bit, and the magnets take care of the rest.
And a couple final things here. I noticed you had some extra fishing weights there. I assume perhaps you tried different hands on here?
I did try different hands. I had a different one that was just kind of gray. It didn't really respond as well with the type of paint that we were doing the scene, so we swapped it out for the zombie arm that we got from Spirit. I think that's probably the most expensive part of the entire build. You know, a set of those zombie arms can set you back about $15-$20.
Gosh. So I would think if you're going to build this again, to find a cheaper source for hands. And really, the way this is used, I imagine you could use like a dollar store hand, the plastic blow mold.
Yeah.
Because it's not a prop anybody should be touching. And
you can tear an old sleeve off of a shirt and just kind of sew it up to the hand so that it stays in place. And
I see you keep playing with that piece of cork there. Why do you have that?
This is so nobody stabs himself to death. It kind of, for transportation purposes, just sits right there.
And that is useful. I won't say why I know that. Anyway. Well, that is very excellent. Thank you for taking the time to talk about this.
Of course.
And thank you guys for watching. Happy haunting.